What's going on, Mutha Truckers? Welcome to muthatruckernews. Emails at muthatruckernews@gmail.com. Definitely want to get into this right here, right? Craig Feeler from Freight Waves stated this, and I thought this was a great article. We know all the things that's happening right now with just the lower standards when it comes to the CDL. And so we asked this question, but this idea sparked from this article. I wrote here, you think the American Trucking Association, ATA, and all the talk about a so-called trucker shortage are to blame for the low standards we see in trucking today? We want to hear from you. Please send us your opinion. And we got a lot of drivers that commented on this, and I want to go over some of these today, right? So in this article that Craig Feeler, the CEO of Freight Waves, wrote, he says, basically, I'll put down the link down below, but basically the ATA was stating that there was a trucker shortage, and because of that, this kind of set a precedent for the federal government and the state to think that there is some type of trucker shortage that's really happening. And then, of course, COVID happened, and then there was this slowdown. Tell me if you agree with me. Tell me if you think I'm stupid for this. But when people are saying that we were the heroes in the game and they wanted their toilet paper, that there was this big shortage and there wasn't enough truck drivers to grab that toilet paper. But the truth to be told is that I remember this specifically, that there was so many truck drivers ready to pick up these shipments, but these warehouses and warehouse workers couldn't load it fast enough. So it wasn't that there was this big problem and this big trucker shortage at that time. It was that there was a supply chain issue. The second part of that is people were so frantic and they were so worried that they couldn't get their products that they were just buying like crazy. I mean, I got to be honest, I even bought a little bit more toilet paper than I thought I'd need, just because how crazy everyone was buying everything. And so it wasn't truly a trucker shortage at that time, but did the ATA put that in the federal government and state's head that there was one? And because of that, they lowered the standards of the CDL, right? That's the question there. So I asked this, and I asked a lot of drivers about this, and I wanted to go over some of these and see what you guys were saying about this. And please share this to Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy, because it's important to do so, right? This is straight from basically the lion's mouth, right? So right here, let's see how many drivers wrote something about this. We got over 45 drivers on YouTube that stated, let me go over this. I was a truck driver for 15 years, and it's not only them, but the disrespect from shippers and receivers and companies wanting drivers to break the law to pick up a delivery on time, and not mention the low pay. It says it's not a driver shortage, it's a pay shortage. States here, it's all about corporations wanting cheap labor. Do you agree with that? It's a lie to get cheap illegal labor. So a lot of people are under, the notion that it's to get cheap labor. And I'm thinking there might be some truth to that. And the reason why I state that is because, when you want to drive a truck, the insurance keeps you from being able to work for really great paying companies. And of course, you got to start at one of these megas, right? And with that, they're not paying you that great. And you know that. And so they try to do everything they can to incentivize you to stay in the truck, to lease the truck, to be a lease operator. And by the time you find out you're not making any money, what do? You go, well, wait a minute. I'm going to go out and, I'm going to quit this because it's not making any money, right? And so, they don't want to deal with drivers. It says here, yes, and the mega is basically shortcutting training. Someone who only has 90 days of experience shouldn't be training anybody. There shouldn't be one trainer training 3 students in one truck. Truck driver training shouldn't be get your CDL and a job in just 14 days. Now, this seems like a joke, but it really isn't a joke. I mean, this is the honest truth. I've seen so many drivers out there that are training students while they're still students themselves. And that is shortcutting on training. Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy, you need to know about this. This is real, right? We have another one. Oh, this is a good one. The deregulation of trucking industry and allowing brokers to set their own rates was the start. No oversight of mega carriers creating giant monopolies is another. The DOT, Congress, and the Senate are all in the pockets of both major carriers and shippers. We have more regulations on drivers than pilots do. But the level of training is so far below what it should be. Drivers are the first to admit that the first year of driving feels like you're treading water. It takes several years to gain the experience to be a driver who can operate safely and know the risks involved in making good decisions. So I agree. Mega carriers refusing to hire experienced drivers. So a lot of people are coming out of the woodwork here and saying, besides, ATA and other organizations, pushing this trucker shortage, right? The big thing is they want to hire inexperienced drivers because they pay them a lot less. I look at that and I look at what we're at here today with automation and how so many people are buying in on, Aurora and, these companies that don't want drivers at all. And if you peel back the onion, there's a lot to be said about how many trucking companies are double downing on this because they don't want to pay drivers, right? No driver shortage, but greedy and cheap brokers that destroy our way of life. If they never regulate that, we will always get shorted. This one right here, I drove for 32 years. It's a myth. It's not a myth. I can tell you exactly why they're hiring those illegal drivers because they're exposed as companies that treat drivers bad. So yeah, yes, they are the problem. No organization stands and fights for the driver, not even OOIDA. And I was reading through this, and a lot of people were throwing shots at OOIDA. I was thinking that drivers felt like OOIDA was helping you out, but there's a lot of shots thrown at that. Screw the ATA. They are the reason the industry is in the tank as it is. Instead of handling the monopoly they call swift, they let it happen. Ooh. Another driver says, yes, the ATA is a corporate bully. I'm telling you, there's a lot here. Let's go on Facebook to see what people are stating. There never has been a shortage of American drivers. Another driver says it doesn't matter what one trucker or even 5.9 million truckers think. The real question is whether that one trucker's opinion or the opinions of those 5.9 million are being properly represented so that they actually count and lead to positive change. And there's a lot of truth in that. I agree with that fully. I think it was made up to bring in all the illegals. Ooh. Another shot fired. ATA and OOIDA want total control in the trucking business. They want to become two single corporations and kill small companies and owner operations that represent 87% of the trucking industry. Interesting. I feel the ATA only represents the mega carriers. Another driver says, yes, for sure. President Trump needs to dismantle the ATA and the FMCSA. A lot of drivers, as I'm reading this, there never has been a trucker shortage. Another driver says, what's your opinion? And so I'll put this out here. My opinion at the end of the day is that there is this falsehood of a trucker shortage. And it's easy for, big mega carriers to show the federal government that there is a trucker shortage. And the reason why I state that is just say you have 5,000 trucks and you have Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy at your office and there's 400 trucks, in your parking lot that have no butts in that seat. It's easy to tell the Secretary of Transportation, hey, look, we do have a trucker shortage. Look at these 400 trucks that are sitting out there that are not being driven now. But the truth be told is that nobody wants to work when they know that they're getting paid crap, right? Everybody deserves a fair wage to make money, especially your sacrifice to provide for your family. Mud truckers, at the end of the day, I appreciate everybody for commenting down below. There's a lot of drivers out there that have put in some comments, and I'll share a lot of those here. But I thank you for that. But the consensus while reading through all this is they truly believe that the ATA played a big part in this, but also that the government should be held accountable for this because they did lower the standards, right? And I agree, that this narrative of trucker shortage, especially during COVID, really, really, really did lower the standards of the CDL for the professional driver. But I state that once again, there were plenty of drivers. I recalled, I even did the news about it, where drivers are waiting at shippers for hours to load that toilet paper, but there wasn't enough people right, to load it into their trailer. And, people were just ordering crazy amounts. And for that moment, it just seemed like it was just going gangbusters. But the truth is, what do you expect to happen when the world stops, right? That's the big thing. So, Mud Truckers, comment down below, but just want to share with you guys that yes, it looks like in the consensus of most drivers that have commented, which were a few hundred, that the ATA and this narrative of trucker shortage was a big part of why we have these low standards today, where they were bringing in just anybody to drive a truck. So, Mud Truckers, comment down below. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for commenting down below. It means the world.